Hello everybody and welcome to the session on defining your target audience and finding your influencers on social media. I will be talking about how to define your target audience on social media, the importance of your different target audiences on social media, also the importance of influencers and how to define your influencers and find them and how to connect with them. So for the next hour to or 45 minutes to an hour, we'll be talking about various topics such as psychographics, demographics, segmenting your market, and looking at the Groundswell tool and the Cobra motivations. I'll be helping you determine all of this on social media and helping you discover, again, your target audience. For my students that are watching this video, I have uploaded a sheet about your assignment for this topic, so please make sure to follow that along and answer the questions for that. Again, if you have any questions throughout this webinar, feel free to ask me. The more questions you ask, the better it is for the audience that is watching this afterwards. So I'm actually going to go offline right now, and I'll start my presentation, and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Again, if you do have a question, unfortunately, I won't be able to see the screen once I go into the presentation, so please just stop me in the middle of it. Okay, let's get started. Hopefully you can see what I see and you see my presentation, and we can get started on that. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're going to talk about customer personas and target audience and influencers. For the people that don't know me and are just stumbling upon this presentation, my name is Really Layla. That is my brand, and I encourage everybody to have a catchy personal brand name or brand title. So going on, let's move on to the first part of the presentation. So throughout the years, we've had a real revolution in marketing and how to do marketing. And at first, what happened was we would target markets based on simple demographics such as age, gender, location, and income. Unfortunately, these demographics are static, and the way to actually target your audience based on these, again, is static, and it's not possible to change. And the interesting part is about demographics versus what I think is more important, such as psychographics, is that with psychographics, it's changing, and with demographics, you only get a portion of information about a customer. So when you have only a portion, you don't really know habits they have or behaviors, which are considered psychographics. So with demographics, again, they're really static, they're not really changing, and with the ability and the evolution of marketing, and now with the changes in social media, you're able to target your audience very specifically. So what psychographics are the behaviors that people have. So for instance, if someone is a skier, they aren't necessarily a certain age or gender, but they are more based on the behaviors. So are they into extreme sports? Are they risk-taking? Do they like the cold? So with psychographics, you have a more encompassing idea of the person, and it's a more dynamic view versus just a stagnant view that demographics brings. Now, demographics should not be discounted, but you should definitely look at psychographics as a more dominant measure of people. So once you have your psychographics, it's good to segment your market, understand the different customer personas that each segmented market has. So with the segmentation of your market, you might have a number of different groups of people, but the way you target them is differently. So it's actually all plays into each other. So when you're creating your segments, maybe, you do have that idea of psychographics where people are really, let's go back to the skiing example, are really risk-taking, and they have, they enjoy the cold, but when you're segmenting them out, you can then use demographics to actually communicate your message that you have for marketing. And so when you're doing your customer persona and you're creating your segments of your market, there are a number of questions it's good to ask to understand each customer and the story behind the customer. And recently, with this evolution of social media marketing, what's really come what's more prominent today is this idea of creating a customer experience. And if you don't understand your customer story, it's really difficult to actually understand the customer persona and to actually create that full experience to have your target really enjoy what's going on. Interestingly, for instance, Coca-Cola, what they've done is they have these bottles, and each bottle is customized and has a person's name on it. So again, that's the customer experience I'm talking about. And what Coke has done to actually create this customer experience is, and this is a lot more general, it's not segmented, but what they've done that's really interesting is you can actually go online and enter your name, so your name comes up in the Coke bottle. On the Coke bottle, I'm sorry. So it's interesting because what Coke has realized is that they can capitalize on the user experience by drawing people to their website, but also bringing traditional marketing back into the mix. So that's another thing that I always like to communicate is it's not good to just use one channel. You have to incorporate a number of channels to have the full user experience. Now, when you're trying to define your customer persona, it's important to ask a couple of questions. The first question to ask is, who is the buyer? Who do we think the buyer is? And sometimes what's interesting is the buyer that you think is the actual buyer isn't necessarily the buyer the people that are buying your product. Another thing to ask is, why do they buy or not buy the brand? So it's important to understand, what are the reasons between people wanting to buy your brand or why they're buying another brand. So for instance, maybe there is a price difference. Maybe, you're a high-end brand and people aren't going to buy your product because for them it's a little more expensive, but they'll go and buy, some of the generic brands. Also, it's important to ask and to actually analyze more so is how, when, and where do they buy. So the how is, how are they buying? Are they using the internet to buy? Are they actually going in store? Is it a compulsive buy? Is it an emotional buy? Or is it a rational decision? Then again, when is, what time of year, what time of the day, when are people actually buying your product? Is it because they actually need the product or because they again, they have that want to buy the product. So, when in the product, in the cycle of the purchase behavior cycle, when are they buying the product? And then where do they buy the product? Is it, maybe in some stores there's more purchases. So, maybe if you're a tech company, if you're a tech product, say your computer, your HP, for instance, are they buying more so the product at Best Buy versus online, or are they buying it from the products from Walmart? So where are they buying? So it's important to understand the landscape, both for the offline, the face-to-face, but also the online. And what's really interesting is the persona that you have. The customers that you have offline aren't always going to resonate online as well. So with online customers, the way that you they purchase products aren't always the same, and their the promotional strategies used aren't the same as well. At this point, I would normally ask if anyone has any questions. Unfortunately, we don't have that luxury here. But if anybody has any questions, please, again, make sure to ask me either via email or through the YouTube channel, or, again, just ask me throughout the presentation. So many marketing theorists have come out and said there is a 5-stage or 7, 4. There are a number of different models that have come out, but there is a model saying that there is stages that buyers go through when they're deciding on a purchase or a product. So first, what happens is, you know, they decide they need a product, whether it's, you know, something that they need to replace, or that they saw a promotion for, word of mouth, one of their friends, you know, has the product, so they just realize they need it. Then they go out and they do some type of information search to understand more about the product. They go and see, when they do their information search, then they realize, wow, there are so many different options. Here in the U.S., we are large consumers, and we have lots of choices usually with products. And during the information search, you realize, you know, do you want a higher end product, or with a high price that's more costly, or do you want to save some money and go with, you know, a lower quality but cheaper product? So you find out all the information. So again, I'll go back to my computer decision. You know, out there in the market today, we have so many various computers. You know, there's computer brands. There's Lenovo, there's Dell, HP, Apple, and when you're doing your information search, it's important to understand the consumer will understand what they want out of the product. So, you know, again, as I mentioned, do they want a higher price product such as, you know, a MacBook, or do they want to go on the lower end but still have quality like a Lenovo? Then they go in, and the customer will evaluate the alternative. So they'll see what they have, and they'll finally make their purchase decision, and then they'll do a post-purchase evaluation. Now, the post-purchase evaluation isn't just necessarily the product, but even if, say, they get a bad product, it's how does the company responding? What is the customer service like? So where does social media connect with all of this? You know, there's a number, as I mentioned, there's the 5 stages. Well, social media hits every stage except for the purchase decision, which makes it really difficult for companies to measure ROI. However, if you realize the importance of social media, and that social media just isn't about the sales currently at that moment in time, but it is also about sales in the future, and creating brand awareness, and creating conversations, and you know, the word of mouth marketing, etc. That's really where social media fits in with all of this. So, for instance, when you're again looking at the 5-stage buyer decision-making process, social media can enable people to understand. I apologize for the blurriness and the quality of this picture, but what social media does is it helps people realize that they actually need a product, because, for instance, say someone is on Facebook, they're just scrolling around, and someone makes a comment about buying a new phone, for instance. Phones are really hot, and they say, oh my gosh, I just bought the Samsung Galaxy S5. It's amazing. I can take it underwater. And you're scrolling, and you realize that someone has this new phone. You're you go swimming all the time. Maybe you're a scuba diver, and you want to take underwater pictures. So you have that need recognition. So you realize, again, through Facebook, wow, I really need this product. Then you have the information search. So then you realize, okay, I need this product. I need a new cell phone that goes underwater. And you see if there are any alternatives out there. Are there, or what the competition is. So maybe there are other brands that actually have the same capabilities. Also, you want to do information search. They do information search through social media to see if anybody else has the same phone. So maybe you throw up a status and you say, Samsung Galaxy S5, I'm in the market. Should I purchase this, or should I go with another product? So, or what do you think think about this? And so people start responding, and you see it all the time on Facebook or Twitter, people asking questions about the product. And then once you decide that you have all the information, again, you evaluate the alternatives. So maybe people say, yeah, the Samsung Galaxy S5, it's awesome, we love it. But then they come out and say, but the iPhone 5S has a faster, has a longer battery life, and it's faster. So again, you go and you evaluate the alternatives, and you say, okay, but do I need something that's faster with a longer battery life, or again, am I buying the Samsung Galaxy S5 for that one feature, which is the ability to go underwater? So again, as I mentioned, it doesn't, social media doesn't hit the purchase decision, but then again, you have the post-purchase evaluation. So after you purchase your product, you know, you go and maybe you'll look at other alternatives again, but one thing that you will do is if you have either a complaint about your product, maybe you got a faulty Samsung Galaxy S5, and you know, maybe the battery's horrible. So you send out a tweet or you send out a Facebook message to Samsung, and you say, hey, you know, I just bought this new product. It's awesome, but I realized that, you know, the battery life it's dying very quickly. So the faster Samsung replies to you, the better the customer service is, whether they, you know, offer to fix the phone for free. Excuse me. That also is part of the process. And again, with social media, that post-purchase evaluation is where a lot of brands can hit the user and hit the customer to make sure that they are happy with their service. So it's really interesting because a lot of brands don't realize the need to listen to their customers online and actually respond to them. And I always say respond within 24 hours. It's good for your brand. Next, I'm going to go into actually how to create a customer persona. So, you know, I'm going to give you the general information, and then we'll go into how to do it with social media. So with general information, some things that you want to create with your customer persona, as I mentioned, is demographics. You definitely want to start with demographics, understand what the age, the gender, the income level, the location is of your customer. It's very good to understand all of this because by understanding just the basics, you can get a good feel for the message and how to send the message. You know, when you're trying to communicate your message to your customer. Also, this should actually go in the social media info, but you should figure out look at the photo and the name of each person. And the reason it's good to look at the photo is of your customer on social media is because with the photo you can get a sense of who that person is. Nothing tells you more about a person than a picture, especially their profile picture. And it's good to understand, you know, look at the photo again and understand the person. Also the job level, you know, what is their, where are they in their company? Are they a CEO? Are they a, you know, a manager? Are they a director? Are they a VP? Where are they? What type of job level do they have? And what is their job even? So are they in finance? Are they in marketing? Are they in customer service? And that can help you understand, again, more about the customer. Also, you want to look at if they have any children and pets. By understanding a full scope of the customer, it helps create the story about the customer as well. And what's interesting is a lot of times people, as I'm sure you know, people have similar stories. So it's important. So once you have, you know, 4 or 5 different customer personas and the story behind the person, it's good. You can usually generalize it to other people with similar stories. So as long as you have a couple of stories, a couple of customer personas, you can help generalize that to other groups of people as well. Hobbies and interests. Again, this goes more into the psychographics, but by understanding their hobbies and interests, you can get a better idea about the person. So, you know, you're selling technology? I always think it's really interesting because people that are really into nature, so people that hike a lot, people that, are always out in outdoorsy, they're the ones that are high tech as well. So it's again, this is a generalization, but it's very similar, and that's the story that I've created around certain groups of people. Also, online places where they look for product information. You can do this all through Google Analytics. You can also go to Alexa, and it's interesting because on Alexa, the website, you can see where people have been and where they're going. One more thing that I didn't include, but I think it's important, is education level. And education level is important because you want to know the literacy of the person, of the customer, and the story of the person, and it can again help you when you're communicating your message to understand what what terminology you should be using and where you should be hitting the person, what type of words you should be using. So after you figure out the general information, it's good to look at the social media information, and this gives you a more encompassing picture and a more dynamic picture of the customer. So what can you look at? What type of social media sites are they on? So are they strictly is the group of people strictly on Facebook? Are they strictly on Twitter? Are they all over the place on Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, etc.? Look at where they're at. Look at the social media sites they populate, because by knowing this, it also helps you create a social media strategy specifically to those different social media applications. Also, you want to see what keywords they use. So by understanding your community and understanding your customer, you can see the keywords that they're using frequently, and then you can use those keywords too. And that's how you can connect with the customer. And again, with social media, it's all about the connection and creating that connection with the customer, and by giving them that experience. So the more you know about them, the more intimate you are with them, the better it is for the person. Also, you want to see other brands they follow, what is their community on social media. Community is the people they follow, and the people that are following them. So what does their community look like? Also, the information they post. So what information is it? Are they always complaining? Are they always praising other brands? Are they always saying negative things about other brands? It's important to know the information that they're posting. The size of their community. Are they following 100 people? Are they excuse me? Are they following 30, 40, 50 people, or are they following thousands of people? By knowing the size of their community, you can gauge how large of a following they have, and so when you reach out to them, when we talk about influencers, you can understand what is their network like. How far can your reach go based on that group of customer personas? Also, as I mentioned, general sentiment. This is, are they always complaining? Are they always positive? What's their general sentiment online? And there's actually a toolbar that you can install on your if you use Chrome. I believe. Let me see what it's called. I can't remember off the top of my head. Oh, I don't have it. Where'd it go? Viral Heat. So if you use Viral Heat, that will definitely help you with knowing the sentiment around your customer. Also, you want to see the frequency of posts, and the reason you want to look at the frequency of their posts are because you can kind of gauge how often you should post. Also, their engagement. Are they generally engaging with people? What is their social media profile like in the sense of engagement? So, are they going to be a creator? Are they, collecting information? Like, what type of engagement do they have? And that creates the type of social media user they are. So I just kind of threw together this quote, and what I think and why you should definitely look at the customer persona is social media helps you connect with consumers when they want and don't know they want your product, right? So also you want to learn, why not learn what, how, and why they purchase? And it's the most important part is knowing your customer. And with social media, you have this ability to actually know your customer, so it's important to know them. I mean, you didn't have the same reach, and maybe not the same reach, but the same detailed target that you have now. So also when you're looking at your social media target audience, what you want to look at is the different social media profiles. And what Lee and Bernoff did was they created this social technographic profile based on their book, The Groundswell. I don't know, I'm sure many of you have heard of it if you're watching this video, but basically it looks at how do people engage on social media. How are they engaging? And so you start with the creators, and creators are constantly creating content. They're, what we like to call the influencers. These are, the bigger brands that are always creating original content. So, for instance, I always say creators for me are, Social Media Today, Mashable, Moz is great. They're great creators for SEO information. You also have Google. Google always comes out with new information, Social Media Examiner, etc. And those are all creators online. Next, you have the critics. And the critics are, they're not creating I mean, maybe once in a while they're creating original content, but they're engaging all the time. Maybe once in a while they'll create a conversation around a certain topic and people will engage with them, but they're always posting online. Next, you have collectors, and collectors are the ones that collect information and share information. They're, retweeting, reposting, putting out content, but they're not really creating much original content, actually, if any original content. And these collectors are also the ones that are, engaging in a lot of conversation as well. Then you have joiners. Joiners aren't really sharing much. They just once in a while will throw out an @reply. They'll join a conversation, but they're never creating original content. They're never creating original content, and they're just really joining in the conversation. Then you have spectators, and these are people that are online all the time, and maybe once in a while they're engaged, but they're really just online to be online. And they're watching, they're seeing what's going on, they're lurking, but they're not as engaged as the other four types of social media users. And finally, you have inactives, and inactives are online all the time. I'm sorry, they're online, but they're never actually on social media sites. So they have the registered names, but they're not really active online. So I always say this is my dad, because my dad has so many various social media sites, but he never ever goes on them. I always say I go on his sites more than he does, because people get upset if they don't look at his, if he doesn't accept their friend request, for instance, on Facebook. So, interestingly, the Groundswell tool is a great tool, and I'm going to show it to you right now. Okay, so if you type into Google Groundswell tool, it's one of the first actually results that comes up on the search engine. So what you want to do is you want to look at the Groundswell tool, and you can use this to understand more about your customer. So, what type of users are they? You also it helps you understand the landscape in which you're trying to, engage your consumers. Because as you being a brand online, you want to ultimately be a creator and an influencer, so you want to understand how to engage with your customers. Okay, so how do you do this? You press Build Profile, and what's interesting is it gives you percentages of people that are creators, critics, collectors, joiners, spectators, and inactive online, and it gives you, so you put in basic demographics and it spits it out for you. So for instance, we're in the US, so I'm going to keep that. And the age, we're going to keep it general, and gender general as well. And what's been found is that only about 24% of people in the US are creators, 37 are collectors, critics, 21 are collectors, 51 are joiners, 73 are spectators, and 18% are inactives. Now, if you change it to, let's say, age, you can see that the age changes a lot, the percentages of creators and critics. And if you look for critics and creators, which again, in the US, 18 to 24, no gender specified, creators are about 46% and critics are about 50%. So it's really interesting to see the shift as you go down in age. Now, if you look specifically at females, which is again interesting, critics go down, but creators become more, are higher represented. Now, if you look at males, males again are higher critics, if you see right here, but they're only creating about 40, it's only about 44% creators. So you could use this to understand, say you're doing a social media strategy or a social media campaign. Specifically, I think this is better for promotional strategies. You can understand, what type of promotional strategy should you do to get people engaged and involved. And again, you can look at other countries. This is, again, a great tool. Let's look at, for instance, the UK. So again, male UK has a pretty hefty amount of creators and critics, but always joiners and spectators are very well represented. Let's go to, let's go to Japan. Oh, there's no data available. Spain. Okay, Spain, you can see it's about 40% creators, 41% critics, and this again is not gender specified. Okay. Oopsies. Oopsies. Okay, so if we go back to the customer personas as we were just speaking about, and then we're looking again at the Groundswell tool. What's interesting is people always ask me with the Groundswell tool, why is this important? Why is the Groundswell tool important? And it's important, but it really, it tells you, it gives you a landscape of understanding your target, but it really doesn't do much more than that. So what happened was Muntinga, Moore, and Smith came out and created motivations for the actual Groundswell tool. Well, not for the Groundswell tool, but motivations of people on social media and why they use social media. And so just to kind of give you an idea, what happened was within Muntinga, Moore, and Smith's Cobra typologies, they only actually found 3 factors, but they're very similar to what the Groundswell tool has. So I'm sorry, the top cut off, but creators and critics, I always say are creators, collectors and joiners are the contributors because of their characteristics, and then spectators and inactives are considered the consumers for Muntinga, Moore, and Smith's Cobra typology. So you can see kind of how they all factor out. Okay. So once you go to that, you can then look at the actual Cobra typologies. And what Muntinga, Moore, and Smith did was they did interviews and interviewed people to see how are they motivated on social media based on the different typologies. And what's interesting is, they found a number of characteristics, and these characteristics actually grouped into the different creator, contributor, and consumer. So creators are motivated by personal identity, integration, social interaction, being empowered, and entertainment. And if you look at creators or influencers, these are the people that really are trying to get their views across. They're trying to become very empowered through what they're saying. They're also sometimes entertaining. They want that social interaction. They like that engagement. And again, they're creating that personal identity. Now, contributors are, again, these are similar to Groundswell's collectors and joiners. And they're, again, trying to get that personal identity. They're doing integration and social interaction. So they're trying to get integrated and socially interacted. So again, if you think about it, they're engaging, but they're really not creating that sense of empowerment. They don't need that empowerment feeling. And again, entertainment. Entertainment is the same throughout every single motivation. So If you're funny and you're entertaining, people will want to follow your brand. And then there are consumers, and consumers are the ones that they're the ones looking for information, and they are using social media for remuneration, which is the use of social media for thinking that you're going to gain something. So you're going to do a contest, or you're going to be on social media just because you actually think you're going to gain something from, like some type of coupon or something, for instance. And again, the consumers are the spectators and the inactive, so they're the ones kind of just watching what's going on online. So that's why information, entertainment, and remuneration makes sense, because once you actually start engaging online, you realize, or on social media, you realize that there's more to it than just actually getting the free stuff, right? So I just told you about the different typologies, the different of social media users. Now, the one social media user that always should get kind of separated out compared to the rest of the different customer personas are the influencers. And influencers are so vital to any social media strategy, any social media campaign, because influencers have so much clout online. Influencers have such big community members, such engagement online, that it's important to understand and to target them when you're trying to actually increase your brand and get more brand awareness. By their reach and by their information, you can just learn so much from them, and you can actually just connect with them and help develop and create engagement and clout for yourself. So what do you measure online? What for your social media strategy? Well, what I think for influencers, for your social media strategy, some things you should look at are their community size. But community size alone is not an important measure for influencers, because I actually, interestingly, I can't remember what social media analytics site it is, but what they did for me was they helped me. There are so many various social media analytics sites out there, and I'm going to show you a couple. But what they did was they did a report for my community, and they looked at my community size versus, or not my community size, my community members' community size versus their clout. And it was interesting to see that there were so many, so many people on social media with large community sizes, and their clout was so low. Not so low, but for this size of their community, it should be a lot higher. So it was really interesting to see for me. So again, community size is good, but engagement and clout are more important for actually getting sales on social media. So reach is important. How far is their reach? How relevant are they? And it's good to see how relevant they are compared to you, because if you think someone's an influencer, but yet there's nothing that they say that's relevant, that's not going to be very helpful for you in the long run. So then it's also important to see what type of content your social media influencers are writing about. Always follow them, create lists online, use various sites such as TweetDeck and Hootsuite to follow just your influencers and see what they're writing about, see what the hot trends are. Look at the keywords they're using. As I mentioned, for instance, so customer engagement marketing is really hot right now, and I see a lot of people writing about it. Also, the new hot thing is influencer marketing, and I really have only found this out through Twitter specifically. Also, you want to see the response rate, so how often are they responding, how often are they actually posting is good, and it's good to look at this. So for instance, one of my influencers, again, I'm going to bring Mashable up again. If you look at Mashable, for instance, and I'm just going to go, Mashable started off as a social media blog, and recently they've actually become a lot larger than that, and they kind of do anything that's hot in the time. So I'm just going to go and strictly look at what Mashable is writing about for social media. So if you go to their blog, for instance, you can see what they're writing about. So the biggest things that they're writing about connecting with social media is that YouTube is more popular than live TV, which is, I'm sure, is very true. I'm making a YouTube video right now. Also, it's looking for, it's looking at Twitter and the World Cup. They're also looking at content strategy, which is really big. And that actually might be a advertisement. They're looking at top vacation spots on Earth, how Facebook will backlash, if it will kill scientists' data dream. Facebook recently just did a experiment to see, how people's sentiment online, see if it will change behaviors and mood. So it was really interesting. So they think that is probably going to do backlash eventually. Also, Facebook's new updates for video ads, Instagram. That's interesting. Instagram started as a social network named after bourbon. So it's just really interesting to see, what are the hot topics. And you can also see this if you create Twitter lists, for instance. I love lists. I think they are the greatest thing online for social media. If you go to this is my Twitter page for anyone that doesn't follow me yet, feel free to. It's @ReallyLayla, as I mentioned. And if I go to more and you go to lists, I have a number of different lists online. So, for instance, we were talking about social media, so I'm actually going to go to my social media tweet list and see what some of the hot topics are. Some of the hot topics are, let's see, social media jobs that are out there. What are some questions to ask yourself before joining a social media platform? Facebook CEO tells users she's upset because we upset you again. That's really hot right now with Facebook. So it's good to look at all of this information. So that is a good way to get more clout online. How do I find my social media influencers? I do a quick social media search in Twitter and go to people, and I just look, and as you can see, I follow a number of people on social media. If you want to follow people on social media, Mashable, Social Media Today, Jeff Boulis, Brian Solis, Social Media Examiner, Chris Brogan, Mary Smith, I just recently unfollowed her actually, Cloud, etc. So all of these people are social media influencers. You can do this for any industry. Also, what you can do is type in social media influencer, again, because that's my area. That's what I'm going to type in. And you can see, usually they'll do who are the top 50 social media power influencers, find them, influencer marketing. Interviews with Forbes top 50 power influencers. I actually wrote a blog on my top influencers on online marketing. Also, you can, if I have a number of different blogs up, I think like 2 or 3 about social media influencers, so you can figure that. I think one is like how to find them, and one is why are they important. So that is how to find social media influencers. Also, what might be helpful is to go to Klout. Klout is a site that ranks your social media influence online, and it creates a score for you. So 45 is average. Anyone above a 65 is actually in the top 5% of influencers, which is really interesting. And so what you want to do, for instance, is I'm not going to go into how to use Klout, but I'm just going to try to help you find influencers. So you just type in social media into Klout, sign up, type it in, and again, all of these sites come up and you can follow them. So again, Social Media Examiner has a score of 82. Okay, so those are just a couple of ways to find influencers and to see how influential they are online. So let's type in Mashable, for instance. Mashable is an 88. Social Media Examiner had a 62. So you can see how influential they are, and this can help you gauge whether you should follow them or not. Also, another site that I think is amazing, and it's not very expensive if you have the funds for it. I think it's like $14 a month, is Social Bro. And Social Bro helps you, as it has a number of different analytical tools. But what's interesting is Social Bro actually came out and gave scores based on your engagement and so it's your credit influence. So how credible are you in your field, and then what's your engagement or outreach level like? And you can break it down based on influence, etc. So that's one thing that it does, but it also gives you community insights, and I think these are really helpful for you when you're trying to do your customer persona, or when you're trying to do figure out influencers and who to follow and not follow, etc. So for your customer persona, how this is helpful is you can look at the languages, the time zones, you know, if people have pictures or not, URLs, if people are using them, if they're verified, how many people you follow in your community that are verified, how many are private, the gender, right, entity, if it's a company or a person. Now, this is what I think is important that some people sometimes actually just discredit, but again, I think it's these are important stats, and Social Bro has these, which is great. So you can look at how many, the number of followers your community has, and then the number of people they are following. So you can look at the difference. So for instance, about 26% of my community is following about you know, 1,000 to 5,000 people, where 25% is the next largest group, is following about 10,000 to 50,000 people. And it makes sense, right? Because if you look, the people that will see my reach, so if you look at how many people, my followers, you know, they have between about 18% is about 1,000 to 5,000, and again, about 25% is about 10 to 50%. So by looking at your followers, that's your potential reach. Another really interesting thing that I mentioned when you're creating your customer persona is looking at your the last time the people tweeted. And you can see, you know, in the last 24 hours, in the last week, that's my highest represented group. So it's good to know that. So last 24 hours, about 25%. Last week, about 29%. One more thing that I think is important, and then we'll move on to how to actually target your influencers, is your tweets per day. So you can see less than 5 tweets per day. That, again, is my highest represented sample, and that's about 48%. So almost half of my users only tweet about less than 5 times per day, but more than 2. So this is important because you don't want to overly, you know, send out posts. You want to make sure that you are sending out as much as your community wants. Now, again, if you go to my blog, you can see I wrote an article about cluster tweeting. So if you do cluster tweeting, I think you can do more, but it should be about 5 times per day. I'm not going to go into cluster tweeting, as you can read about it again in my blog. Oops, sorry. Okay. So last but not least, how do I actually target influencers? Now, influencers, I always say they don't necessarily have to have a huge community size of, like, you know, 10 to 20,000 followers, but they need to have a lot of engagement, and that's really what's the most important part, again, is the engagement. So, you know, influencers could be people with 1,000, 2,000 followers, but they create original content and they're creators. So they're creating conversations, they're online all the time, they're responding, they're tweeting a lot, they're posting a lot on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, etc. So these are people that you want to be following, and these are, and as I mentioned, influencers, again, don't need to have huge community sizes. So please keep that in mind. So how do I target them? That is the million-dollar question, and there's a number of things you want to do. You want to create relationships, and when you're creating these relationships, you don't want to just reach out to influencers when you need something. You create a relationship, and then when you need something, then you reach out to them, because at the end of the day, you know, think about you. If someone just all of a sudden is like, I need this, you're not going to respond to that. So create a relationship, and how do you create a relationship? You ask them questions, you engage with them, you start conversations with them. Also, give social currency. Social currency is, again, the engagement, backlinking, or, you know, putting backlinking in blogs, you know, responding to them, retweeting them. Give them some type of social currency so that they become more apt to actually want to help you when you ask them for help. Because if you're not, you know, helping them with their social currency, then they're not going to want to help you in the future. Just ask them, right? So once you've created the relationship and you've given them social currency, definitely feel free to ask them. Next, you want to create an exclusive list. So on Twitter, for instance, create a, like I did, I think you guys saw it when I was looking through my list, but, you know, my top influencers, my holistic social media list that I created a blog about. So definitely, you know, make them feel special. Is to give them compensation, whether it's, if you're a brand, for instance, give them some free stuff. That always, you know, gives people the want to actually help you. And finally, again, ask them questions. So it's important to do all of these to actually, you know, interact with your influencers and to create some type of relationship with them. So, okay, so I'm trying to just get back to my Google Hangout and, oopsies. So now I'm done with my my portion of the lecture for today. Does anybody have any questions for me? I see I have a couple of viewers that are live. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I just did a Q&A section. Oh, whoops. Okay, well, I don't think I can answer any questions right now because I was supposed to enable this beforehand. So if you were trying to ask me questions, again, I apologize. But I can be online, or I am online. You can comment anywhere on this Google Hangout, and I will be available for the next couple of hours for anyone that has any questions. I hope you enjoyed how to find your target audience, how to find influencers online, and I look forward to connecting with you in the future. Again, I'm at Really Layla, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.